gentlemen, welcome back. Episode 2, the DH Pod. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to everyone who reached out to us, engaged with us, gave us feedback, comments, all that stuff. We really appreciate it. Coming back. People were hungry for another episode, John, so we're here putting out some content for them. How we doing today, John?
We're doing good. We got a lot of sports to talk about today.
Yeah.
We got categories about only sports today. So Excited about it. We got March Madness going. We got NFL free agency going. Baseball's kicking up. So we're going to focus episode 2 on sports. Like Bass said, thank you to everybody that reached out or took the time to listen. So this is for you guys, and we're excited to keep it rolling.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's start it off. Let's get into our first segment, John. Let's let the people know what we got going on.
Yeah. We got build or bust.
Love it.
So we're gonna throw out players, and then we'll talk about if we would build around them or we wouldn't. This is not saying that they're not great players, but we're just saying, hey, would you build your franchise around them? We're gonna take contracts out of it just because that makes it more convoluted and difficult. So just strictly on the player and the performance. Performance throughout their career.
Got it.
So I'm going to stick with baseball to start, and I'm going to throw out Christian Yelich.
Yeah, Yelich is a great player. He had a couple really good years. I think 18 and 19. I think he was an MVP candidate. But anyway, the thing with Yelich is, and I'm leaning towards bust, and I'll tell you why. He's played in 2 small markets. Miami, I know, is a big city, but it's a small market when it comes to baseball. And Milwaukee, again, not the biggest market. He's had some inconsistencies. He's had some injuries. And he just, if I'm a GM, I don't know if I'm mortgaging my future for Christian Yelich. Nice guy. Looks like Pete Davidson. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. He just doesn't have the flair to me at this point, because I do think that's something that's needed when it comes to building around a franchise, especially when it comes to baseball. So it's gonna be a bust for me.
Yeah. First, before I start, shout out to Pete Davidson too, because he's living it up right now.
Pete Davidson is hitting for a high average right now. Let's just say that.
I'm building around Pete Davidson.
Guy's hitting for the cycle.
But Christian Yelich, I'm going to say bust also. I mean, he's a great player. Like you said, 2018, 2019 were his best years. And there was something funny going on in baseball. I think they were tweaking the baseballs or something, but everybody's numbers were inflated. Every hitter's numbers were inflated. And taking those 2 years out, he's just been like an above average player.
Yeah.
I think Milwaukee is trying to build around him. They've got some good talent around him. They just haven't really been able to get over that hump. They've made a couple playoff appearances, but haven't really been able to, put it all together. I mean, the NL is kind of stacked with the Dodgers, and Padres and what have you, but they and the Cardinals too always compete in the playoffs.
Right.
They just haven't been able to get over that hump. And, Christian Yelich, great player, but I don't really think I'm going to build around him like some other outfielders out there. But yeah, I'm gonna say bust for that. But great player.
Yeah.
Hopefully
No, I agree.
He can turn it around. He hit a down year last year, so hopefully he can turn it around.
Yep. So sticking on the diamond here, kind of a player that's near and dear to my heart. So interested to hear what you have to say. Mookie Betts, we building or we busting?
Mook, I'm building around Mook. I am happy that he is off the Red Sox.
Of course you are.
I mean, he's great. He had a tough year last year, but tough year for him is like, a very good year for others.
Yep, absolutely.
So he's great defensively. He's good on the bases. I mean, he's a great hitter too. He's a good all around person too. I just think he's a good guy to build around. And I thought Boston was going to do that. They didn't really have a drop back when they traded him,
right?
Because they're still very competitive, still winning a lot of games. But I'd still build around Mookie. He came to a team that was already stacked to the Dodgers, and he just got them that championship.
Yeah.
but I'm still building around Mookie. I like Mookie.
Yeah, it's going to be a build for me, and I'm obviously trying to take my bias out. I know he played for the Sox here, but I mean, if you throw Mookie on a small market team, a Kansas City Royals, Cincinnati Reds, one of these teams, they're automatically going to mortgage their future. They're going to build around him. They're going to give him a big contract because, just like you mentioned, he's a good guy. He's a team guy. You don't have to worry about any off the field issues or anything like that. He's a consistent player. He shows up to work every single day. And he's just kind of one of those guys, hitting defensively. He just gets it done. He's a great
Yep.
runner as well. So it's definitely going to be a build for Mookie Betts. So
Yeah,
like that.
it's not. It's nice to lock somebody in there and just set it and forget it.
Yep.
Like you know what you're getting at him. I mean, that's why the Dodgers signed him right away to that extension. They
No
didn't even.
question.
No time went past, and they were like, "Hey, here's your money.
Yeah,
You know,
200 million. See you later.
let's run." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, sticking with baseball, last guy here, I'm going to throw out Fernando Tatis Jr.
It's an auto build for me. And I know there are some injury concerns. I know he's injured right now. He's rehabbing, but he's a young cat. He's
He's 22.
22 years old, right? He's, in our last segment, we talked about flair, right? We talked about energy. We talked about juice that baseball needs, and he brings it. I mean, he's flashy. He's on the cover of MLB. He's got the video games going. He's got the dreads.
Yeah.
He's just a guy that, is going to inject life into your franchise. And I know the injuries are a concern, and they definitely be a big concern for me. But I think looking at it now, it's well worth it. I really
Yeah.
think it's well worth it.
I mean, the dude is a stud.
Yeah.
The dude's a stud. Hopefully, he could stay away from the injuries and the motorcycles or whatever he was on to get injured. But yeah, he's great. I could see him transitioning to third later on in his career just because he's a bigger dude.
It's a good point.
But I mean, he's just a good all around player. I would love to see him on the East Coast just to kind of watch him more.
Yeah, you're just being selfish now.
Unless it was the Red Sox. So yeah, I mean, I'm building around him. He's a great player, and hopefully he can continue to to be on the field as much as possible. So
Yep.
it's an automatic build around him, and I think they already are. They extended him, and they're trying to build around him already. So
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I like that. Well, we'll switch it up. We'll go from the diamond to the hardwood here, and a guy that we talk about a lot, John. My thoughts on this player, but I just want to get your thoughts and see if you're going to build or if you're going to bust here. Zion Williamson.
Bust.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not building around him. First off, he's thicker than a Snicker. Pause.
Big pause in there. Pause.
But yeah, I mean, injuries. He's got to lean out. I mean, I know it's tough to lose weight, but it's your job. I'm sorry, you got to be on the court. Your best asset is your availability. If you're not available, then what are you? Like I heard a couple rumblings that people in New York want him. I hope he doesn't go to the Knicks because you cannot build around him.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, if he was a different guy, and playing every day, that's just not him. I would not build around him.
Yeah. And my thoughts, and exactly what I'm going to say. It's a bust for me too. Just like you said, when your job is to play basketball, that should be everything you do should be revolved around that, right? Like
Yep.
You have the luxury of being so gifted and so talented. You can't take care of your body. You're 23 years old, man. Like you're a number one overall pick, hire a trainer, hire a nutritionist, hire a dietitian, whatever it is, and just make that your priority, right? Like, I saw you on draft day. You're crying in your white suit. You're trying to be LeBron James. Like, you need more, right?
Yeah.
You need to see more. I need more consistency. It looks like he's on his way to rehabbing and getting back, which is great. But as of right now, I've seen what I needed to see. I'm not investing a ton of money into Zion Williamson if I'm a general manager in the NBA. So
is this a crazy take? Let's just say he loses a little bit of weight, right?
Okay.
He thins out, but he's still going to be a bigger dude.
Sure.
Would you compare him to Julius Randle?
I'm going to say no. Zion's way more explosive.
Okay.
I think his offensive arsenal is a lot the ceiling is a lot higher, right?
Okay.
He hit some threes when he was in college. I remember, when he did play in a short stint, was it last year, 2 seasons ago, he was hitting the three at a decent clip. I just think he's a bully, right? And I just think he has a better feel for his offensive game. I think it's a lot more developed now, earlier in his career, as opposed to Randall. Randall had to figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
Randall's in year what, 7, 8, and he's
Yeah.
still trying to develop his offensive identity. I think Zion knows who he is. He just needs to add those tools to his tool belt. So, um, I do see the comparison with the size and the lefties and all that.
Yeah, maybe it's because of the lefties
Yeah,
that's
it could
throwing
be
me off.
that. It definitely could be
Yeah.
that. But no,
Yeah.
I like that, John. But
Yeah.
as of
Let
right now, I've seen what I needed to see out of Zion. I could be wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. Right? I
yeah.
want to see him back in his Duke days, and it's going to be a bust for now.
All right. Let's stick with basketball again. Last one, Dame Lillard.
This is a really, really tough one for me. Um, Dame is loyal to a fault, right? And if I'm building a franchise, I'd love that, right? Because if I'm going to invest that money in you, if I'm going to put, 150 million, 200 million bucks, like, I want to know that you're loyal and that you're here for the team. That being said, the injuries have been a problem. He's not getting any younger. His playoff performances are good, but are they? He hasn't really advanced that far in the playoffs. I think he's only been to the second round,
Yeah.
right? So with a player of his caliber, of what they're paying him, and their team is not set up poorly, right? When they had CJ and they had Nurkic and they have those guys, I would like to see more. And right now, when we're talking about building around a player, I'm leaning towards bust. I am, and again, that's nothing has nothing to do with Damian Lillard's the player, the person. He's very loyal, all that stuff. But right now, he's an aging superstar. I mean, I think he's 28, 29. Like, he's getting older, and the injuries are creeping up on him. So right now, it's probably going to be a bust for me.
Yeah, for me, I have to agree, but I think it also depends on the team here
Sure.
because if I'm the Knicks, because there's been tons of rumbling about the Knicks getting Dame.
Right.
If I'm the Knicks, I'm gonna try and build
Sure.
because you've
I
been
think
out
that's
of the
fair.
spotlight really now.
It's a good point.
Brooklyn is taken over kind of a little bit. It's still going to be a New York Knicks city, but still Brooklyn, with all their stars.
Right.
If I'm the Knicks, I'm building around Dame. It depends on contracts and who you got to give up and yada that other stuff. But if I'm the Knicks, I'm going to try and build around him because I think they'll try and he'll bring other talent and attract other talent back to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that's
So if
fair.
I'm the Knicks, if I'm a team like that, I'm definitely building around him. But it just depends on the team for him more than anything because, like you said, injuries, and I mean he's going to be a lot of money too.
Yeah. No, I think
So
that's fair. You bring up some good points there. There are some teams out there that are just in need of again, some life, some juice, some talent, and just a little bit of buzz.
yeah,
So no, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
yeah.
Um, I do want to transition here to the gridiron. Let's
Let's
get
do
to
it.
let's get to the NFL here, and this may be a tough one for you, John. He's a guy that's in your division, and just interested to hear your thoughts on if you build around Dak Prescott.
I'm saying bust. I'm saying bust. You are in one of the worst divisions in the NFL.
Yep.
And yeah, you win the division, but really, who cares? You
All right.
can't. You're not dominating.
Mm-hmm.
You should be. They shouldn't be dominating.
Yes.
The Cowboys had their chance to dominate, and they haven't been able to. I am not building around him. I'm just not. I mean, would I take him on the Giants? Yeah,
Of
but would
course.
I want to build around him? I'm going to say no. I think his best years that he's had, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the best years that he's had have been when Zeke has had his best years too. So like,
Mhm.
I don't really know how much of it is on Dak, is it a system thing with Zeke running well? I mean, they've had a great offensive line, but then I don't know. I'm just not building around him. I'm not.
So I'm a little torn here because quarterbacks are at a premium in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So you got to have your guy, and I think Dak is he's talented enough to get you to the promised land. He
Yeah.
just hasn't, right? You're talking about a team that is America's team, wherever that came from. Um, and they spend money. He's got a bunch of shiny weapons. I know they just moved on from Cooper, but CeeDee Lamb and Cooper and Zeke and that offensive line that everyone loves talking about. He's had all the tools to be successful.
Yeah.
And, you know, do I think he can get there? Do I think he's talented enough to get there? Absolutely. I really do. But at the same time, why hasn't he? Right? Like they haven't even really been close. And I don't know about you, but the last memory I have of Dak is poor time management, poor clock management. Sliding too late, trying to spike the ball, and then game's
Yep.
over. Right? Like
Yeah.
he's been in the league long enough to know better than that. Right?
Yeah.
And you can have your opinion on that play all you want, but it's
But
it's
he's the
it's
guy.
really
Like
tough.
you don't see top dogs making that. You don't see Tom Brady with a mismanaged time clock. You
I've seen
know,
it once. You thought it was fourth
once,
down.
once, once. But
Yeah, in his
maybe
22-year career.
yeah, and maybe that's Dak's one time. Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe not. Hopefully, because I hope that they lose. But I mean, like you put him in a category where he's good enough to get you a Super Bowl, but you got to have a lot of pieces around him, and you have to have a very strong defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Similar to like Eli on the Giants side. Eli, he got you there, but when he got there, their defense was
Yeah,
strong.
everything needs to go right.
Everything needs to go right, and when
Mhm.
one thing doesn't, he's not going to get you to the promised land.
And I'm happy you brought up Eli. Shout out to Eli Manning. I definitely think he's a Hall of Famer. Um, but Eli is a guy we've seen go on a tear. Like when he's hot, he's hot.
Yeah,
Sometimes they limp into the playoffs, but once they get there, he turns it on. He's on a different level. So I just I haven't seen that from Dak. Again, I do think he's talented enough to win a Super Bowl. Um, but he hasn't even been close to getting there. And you can point at the defense, you can point out whatever you want. Jason Garrett, his ineptitude as a head coach, but at the end of the day, someone's got to blame. Someone's got to take the onus, right?
yeah,
Like when Kansas City loses, you blame Mahomes, right? Like
yep,
when Dallas loses, you got to blame Dak. So
yep,
we need to see more out of him, and I would probably lean towards at this point of his career. I'm going to say bust because I've seen him with the weapons. I've seen him with the great O line, and I've seen him with, you know, an above average running back. I don't think Zeke is in that elite tier of running backs anymore, but I've seen him. He's an above average back. He's going to get you 1,000 yards. So,
yeah,
um, no, that was really good. Really good.
yeah.
What do you
Well,
got for me, John?
I got one more. Now, this might be a little controversial just because of the allegations, but Deshaun Watson.
Um, it's going to be a build for me.
All right.
And it's going to be a build for a few reasons. One, he's young. When you look at where the landscape of the NFL is going when it comes to the quarterback position, he fits the mold, right?
Yeah.
The guys that can move around. You don't need someone to run for 100 yards a game, but he can move around. He's athletic. He's tough. He's got grit, man. Like
Yeah.
I've seen him get kicked in the face, have one eye and throw a touchdown, right? So like
Yeah.
he's a tough guy. Now again, looking at it from so when it comes to football and his talent, absolutely, it's a build.
Yeah.
The question marks start to come if I'm a general manager, right? And then again with all the allegations and everything that's happening, I don't want to get too in the weeds with that,
Yeah.
but I personally think he's a team guy. I think he's a genuine guy. I really do. Um, I know we're getting through this whole legal process, but I remember a guy who signed his extension and was crying on live TV, right?
Yeah.
Like very grateful. Um, and we'll see what ends up playing out. But when it comes to the player on the field and all that, he's a build. He's a build for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I would build around him too. If I'm Cleveland, I would just make sure he's got a couple masseuses that he can trust
Oh, here we go.
inside. Uh,
Had to get it
yeah,
in there. You had to.
yeah,
You just
had to. But yeah, taking all that out of it, sticking on the field,
mhm.
I'm building around him.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a great talent. I think he's going to be good there in Cleveland. He's got a couple weapons with him, so um, hopefully they can continue to build around him. I know it's going to be tough because it comes at a hefty price tag, but
yeah.
taking contracts and everything out of it, which is it's tough to do, especially if you're a general manager. You can't just not talk about the money, right?
All right.
But I'm going to build around him.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
fair. I mean, they got a good, I think they have a good base. They have a good offensive line. They already signed Nick Chubb. I'm sure they're working on something with Amari. I mean, Amari's already due a good chunk of money. They've drafted some young receivers. They got a young tight end. So, I think the team has a good base. It has a good foundation. We'll see what happens. We'll see if, how many games he'll play this upcoming season. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, let's stick with football. I know Bass, you wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the NFL right now and the state of everything, and from your perspective.
Yeah.
So hit us with it.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to talk about free agency
Mhm.
for a little bit, and I'll try not to get too long winded here, but um, I love what I'm seeing. Let me preface this. I love what I'm seeing with NFL free agency. Again, it's a super exciting time. We talked about it in our buy and sell in episode 1, and it's a great opportunity for a lot of guys to get that big money, get the
Yep.
contracts, um, you know, just build that generational wealth. Right.
Hmm.
Great stories with, Marquez Valdez Scantling and, him getting cut from his high school team and not making the team. And now he's on his second NFL contract. You get all that stuff. That's awesome. Um, Here's the thing. I love free agency. I love the player empowerment, the player movement. I love everything about it. And I think a lot of teams are mortgaging their future. And when I say future, I mean draft picks for players. And I'm all about that. And I have to give a shout out to current Super Bowl champions, the Los Angeles Rams, for kind of setting the standard, right? When that deal with Matt Stafford came by and everyone saw the draft capital that they gave up, people were looking at him sideways, like, what are you doing? Right. But at the end of the day, they had a plan and they stuck to it. Right. And I think they are a very forward thinking franchise in a lot of what they do. And
Yeah.
I think teams are starting to do that. You look at what Miami did, 5 picks for a Tyreek Hill. I have some issues with that, right? And I have some issues with some of the things that teams are doing because the Rams were set up to win, right? They're set up to win. They had already been to a Super Bowl. They already had perennial defensive player of the year, Aaron Donald, best corner, Jalen Ramsey,
Hmm.
solid coach that they love and that, they built the culture, right? They had everything in place. They just thought that the quarterback position needed to be upgraded. If you're the Miami Dolphins and you trade 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill when you just drafted a receiver in the first round last year, you are not there. You are not a receiver away from being in the Super Bowl. Newsflash,
Yeah.
you play in the AFC East. Bill Belichick, Josh
Yeah.
Allen, like, hello, like you're not there yet. I know you got a new head coach. You're trying to be the new kid on the block, and you're trying to, maybe rid yourself of all the, allegations with Brian Flores and Stephen Ross and all this stuff. But you're not there yet. You still have plenty of foundational holes on your team that you can't mortgage draft picks for one player. You still need some offensive linemen. You still need some defensive linemen. You still need some linebackers. So for you to go ahead and just move all of this draft capital for one player and then sign that player to $120 million contract, to me is a little bit foolish.
Yeah. Do you think teams have been burned so many times on the draft that they'd rather take a sure thing in a player that they know that they've seen versus somebody coming out of college?
So there's one thing, and I think that's a really good point, right? Like I have always been of the mindset of take what as opposed to what you don't know. You don't know who these people are. You don't know who these draft picks are going to be, if they're going to pan out, if they're going to be good, bad, in between, if they're going to be starters. I 100% get that. But there's one thing, like, one would argue Tyreek Hill's been in the NFL 6 years. One would argue maybe he has 2 years left of prime Tyreek Hill, maybe
Yeah.
three. Just
Yeah. So it
you're
just depends on the player that you're getting in return more so
you're
than
you're
anything.
you're expecting high level quality, and not to say that you won't get it. Of course, you're going to get it, but at some point, you're going to have to pay Jalen Waddle. At some point, if Tua is not the answer, you're going to have to go get a quarterback, and you're going to have to pay him. Or if you really like Tua and he turns around, you're going to have to pay him too. So when you have all of this money tied up in this player that's an aging player, you're I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you this. No, no one's going to want to take on that contract in 2 years.
Hmm.
You're not going to be able to move them, and you're not going to be able to get that draft capital back. Now, I understand Miami was in an interesting position because they had so much draft capital that they felt like, okay, let's use it, let's spend it.
Yeah.
And I have no problems with teams being aggressive, but you need to have a plan. You need to be calculated. And I think one of the criteria of making a move like Miami just did was, what relevant success have we had? Like, do we feel like we were on the doorstep? Right? Miami hasn't been on the doorstep. Miami didn't go to the
Yeah.
playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So I have an issue with some of the moves that are being made. Now, when it comes to the players, cash in. I mean, Christian Kirk, cash in, brother. 72 million from the Jackson. Cash
Yeah.
in, my guy.
Yeah.
Cash it up. Like, I'm all about it. All about it. However, from the team level, from the franchise level, from the GM level, I understand it's a stressful job. I understand there's a lot of pressure. But at the end of the day, right, like, we can't ignore what the team is and what you have and what the team has been. I understand that you need to build, and sometimes in some cases you need to overspend. I 100% get that. There's one thing with being overspending, and there's one thing of being just absolutely reckless. We've seen a lot of reckless moves this free agency. We've seen a lot of players move around, which I absolutely love. Russell Wilson moving around, the
Hmm.
quarterback carousel again with the trades, and Watson going to Cleveland, and Baker's going to be on the move, and Mariota's getting the second chance. Like, you get so many great stories. Like, I mean, honestly, I love seeing Marcus Mariota get a second chance.
I feel bad for Atlanta, man. I
No,
know you're a Saints
I
fan,
really,
so
I
you're
really
happy
don't.
about it.
No, 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 no.
Jeez.
And again, I am a Saints fan. I am a Saints fan, but I again, like we talked about in our build or bust. One of the things, he's a locker room guy. He's a team guy. He's never had any issues. He was the backup. He would come in sparingly for Derek Carr. He'd have some big plays. You know, I mean, the guy threw a touchdown pass to himself in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, I just think that he could be a good bridge guy. I just think he's a guy that deserves another opportunity. So I think there's a lot of great stories like that again with Mariota and a lot of some of these other guys that are on the move. But at the same time, teams need to understand who they are, where they are within their landscape.
Yeah.
And again, free agency is great. I love it. Um, I'm super excited for this upcoming NFL season. I'm super excited for the draft coming up here in a few weeks. I think it's going to be a fun time. But again,
Yeah.
that those are just my thoughts.
So if I know I don't mean to harp on, Tyreek Hill much, but what did you think about the move for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, when it comes to and I don't know who started this, but I think of Bill Belichick is you move on from a player a year early and not a year late, right? So I'm sure there was a situation where they wanted to keep Tyreek Hill, they wanted to extend him out, but at the same time, you're in a situation where if the figure was what Miami paid him, you have to move on from him. They locked in Mahomes, Kelsey's locked in. They've made a couple moves defensively. They've drafted. I think they've drafted well defensively, so I think they're okay. They're going to be fine, right? They're going to be fine. And the draft capital that they got back, I think, is fantastic. Kansas City is a
Yeah.
team that drafts well, so they're going to do really, really well with those draft picks, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this draft is heavy wide receiver too. Correct
So,
me if I'm wrong.
yeah,
I think it's
100%
a
right.
strong wide receiver draft this
Yeah.
year
No, it
versus
is.
others. So
It is.
I think they're going to pick up somebody. It's tough to, of course, replace Tyreek Hill, but somebody that's going to improve their team. Not improve their team, but it's not going to be as much of a gap there.
Right, right. I think you can um kind of supplement some of his production with some of the players that you have, right? Like in totality, if you add it all together, obviously Kelsey will probably get more targets. They have a McCole Hardman, who again is a speedster out of Georgia, who they really like. Valdez Scantling again is a good addition. I saw today that they just signed Ronald Jones from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So again, they're rounding out their offense and they're supporting Mahomes, which I think they absolutely should. Um, but again, I just think this year more than any in NFL free agency, and again, this has probably been one of the craziest free agencies that we've seen with all these players on the move, Devontae Adams and all that. You look at the Raiders, right? The Raiders went to the playoffs last year. I mean, the Raiders beat the Cowboys last year, right? They're a competitive football team, and while they do have a new coaching staff, they felt like they were there, and the evidence was there to prove it. Now I understand they play in that division, but they made the moves to continue to get better and compete in their division with the Devontae Adams, with the Chandler Jones, right? And some of these additions that they've made on their team. And they've gotten rid of some players who, again, they probably should have gotten rid of long ago, but that's neither here nor there. So in totality, I love NFL free agency. I love what we've seen. I think we've seen some overly aggressive moves from some teams, and I really think it's going to bite them a little bit to start the season next year. But nonetheless, it's going to be fun. It's going to be tough. A lot of new faces and new places, and like I'm going to be watching games next year and be like, oh shoot, I forgot this guy got traded to this team. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Speaking of that, I we've got a couple fans here of two particular teams that I want your input on.
okay,
Maybe you could talk a little talk right now. So the first, the Washington Commanders.
am I talking
I
about the
think
team name of how bad it is, or what am I talking about here?
yeah, nice name. Uh, you think they're gonna improve? They're gonna have a better season than last year. What do you think? Playoff team?
I mean, again, the division's wide open, right?
Yeah,
I'm definitely in the minority here. I don't hate Carson Wentz. I don't think he's a bad player. You can make the stank face on me all you want, but I don't. He's better than the option that they had before, so I think
yeah,
that's an improvement. I think their defense is going to play better. They had a really. I mean, they went from first to worst
yeah,
really quickly.
yeah,
But they had some key wins. They had some signature wins. I do think again because the division is wide open, and they made some additions. Um, Especially, I just really think they upgraded the quarterback room, and I think Wentz understands that this is probably his last chance.
yeah,
Um, and I would think that he's going to capitalize on that. And I'm not saying he's going to be in the MVP conversation, but I do think it's going to be a quality year for Carson Wentz. I can see Washington around that 9-8 mark, um, and competing for the title for the NFC East. I really
okay,
do.
yeah,
So I think they'll be solid. Shout out Big B. I know you probably want to hear better than that, but again, I gotta call a spade a spade. I do think the team got better with this free agency. They did lose Brandon Sheriff to the Jaguars, which is gonna hurt. But the quarterback has been upgraded. I think some pieces are there. I do like Ron Rivera. So we'll see. I'm saying 9-8 on the outside looking in. They don't get into the playoffs.
All right. Let's stick in that region though, and let's go with the Ravens. What do you think about the Ravens?
So the division got better. Um, they added Watson. Obviously, the Super Bowl representation of the AFC was the Bengals. I think the Bengals got it. I mean, they got so much better. Invested in that offensive line. I think the Ravens' issue is they needed to get healthy. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have a year like last year where they just had, I don't know, 25, 30, 35 players on injured reserve. I don't think that's going to happen. They had some really, really nice key additions with Marcus Williams. Hurts my heart, but he's a new Baltimore Raven. He's going to be a great player for them. I hear they're in the mix for Bobby Wagner, so we'll see what happens there. They're going to lose a couple guys, and they've already lost a few guys to free agency. Um, at the end of the day, I'm saying all this. It comes down to the quarterback. I mean, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
It's all about Lamar Jackson, right? If Lamar can be healthy, if Lamar can continue to take those steps forward as a quarterback, and not just a player, as a quarterback, then the Ravens should be in contention to win the division. There's no reason they shouldn't be a double digit win team. They should be, in a 11-5, well, hold on, 11-6, play 17 games, 11-16,
Yeah.
potentially, more than that. I'm gonna scale back. I think 11 wins is where they are because the AFC is so good. I don't know what their schedule is, but I think they should be a double digit win team. Um, I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be very good, to be
Yeah.
honest. Mitch Trubisky, he's
Yeah.
fine, but he's not going to move the needle for me. We'll see what happens with Watson and if he misses some time. But I think the Bengals are going to be really good, and I think if I was a betting man, I would probably bet on the Bengals to win the division. But the Ravens should make the playoffs. There's no question the Ravens should make the playoffs. They should be healthy. If they are a playoff team. It comes
Yep.
down to the 2019 NFL MVP, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I
Woo,
mean, I
woo.
like Lamar. I'm a Lamar guy. So hopefully he can, continue to stay healthy, and I would build around Lamar. So, in my opinion, I mean,
Yeah.
who wouldn't? Of
I
course.
mean, yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. I mean, I would too. But shout out to the Baltimore Ravens, big trust. Whoop whoop. Lamar Jackson in the flesh. Um, I do think they're gonna have a good season. They're not gonna get hit by the injury bug, and they'll be fine. They'll be
Yeah.
fine.
So shall we switch it up a little bit? I know
Yeah,
it's still March here.
it's
Let's talk
still
a little March
March.
Madness. Shout out to St. Peter's Peacocks.
Yeah, Jersey in the building.
Um, Gotta shout them out. It's incredible what they're doing. I love the grit, love the tenacity, love it. So good for them. But we wanted to talk about the teams, the mid-major teams. I know a lot of the focus goes on to, the UNCs, the Dukes, the Kansas, the Kentuckys, even though they lost to St. Peter's. So, Bass and I, of course, coming from Bryant, we want to talk about, the teams that don't really get recognized as much as they should. And a lot of times in March Madness, they do. This is their spotlight. They win a couple games and, and they put their school on the map. So what we're going to do is a top 5 mid-major programs for basketball, men's basketball. So, Bass, you want to start us off? We'll go 5-1. Let's hear who you got.
Yeah, yeah. And before I get started, shout out to all the mid majors out there. This is a topic that's near and dear to our heart. Obviously, it is March. The madness is upon us. Again, and before I get into it too, talk about a missed opportunity. Yesterday was National Peacock Day. How do I not put my mortgage on St.
That's what I'm
Peter's
saying.
to win? I mean,
That's what I'm
talk
saying.
about a
As
missed opportunity.
as soon as I sat down I was gonna throw some little coin on St. Peter's. I was in Jersey, and in Jersey you can't bet on St. Peter's. You can't bet on New Jersey schools in Jersey.
Really?
Yeah, New Jersey, fucking figure it out. God damn it, man. As soon as the game ends, everybody's like, did you know it's National Peacock Day?
Oh
And
my
sure as
god.
shit, March 25th, National Peacock Day. Missed
Tough.
opportunity.
It's a missed opportunity. It kind of sucks that we missed out on that, but nonetheless, I'll jump right into it. Again, doing it all for all the small schools, the mid majors out there. We just love to see the madness.
Yeah.
So, top five mid majors for me. Starting at five, I'm going to go with the Wichita State Racers, or the Shockers, excuse me. I was thinking of Murray State. The old Shockers. The old Shockers.
The old
Um,
shocker.
Wichita State, has been a staple in the tournament. I'd say the past 15 years. They have 16 tournament appearances for a mid major. That's pretty awesome. Obviously, they have some NBA alumni. Fred Van Vliet, really good
Mm.
player, all star for the Toronto Raptors. Cameron Payne, also an alumni of Wichita State. Also, a couple more alumni that I found from Wichita State. Former New York Knick Xavier McDaniels, excuse
Oh.
me, and rest in peace, Cliff Livingston.
Mm.
He is a shocker of Wichita State. So coming in at number five, Wichita State. Again, just a really, really solid program.
Yeah.
At number four, staying with the state schools, Murray State.
Yeah.
Murray State.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, everyone knows Murray State for John Morant. Shout out Ja. Um, you know, just uh, just a really, really solid program. Again, I know Ja kind of put them on the map, but they have 18 tournament appearances. Really solid school. They've been to a couple Sweet 16s as well. So got to shout out Murray State. At the number three spot, this was really, really tough. This was really tough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the BYU Cougars. The Cougars of
Mm.
BYU. Um, BYU. I mean, there's something in that Mormon water that they're doing over there. I don't know. It's they're really flirting with the lines there. I don't know what's going on out there, but whatever it is, 30 NCAA appearances from BYU. Obviously, their shining superstar is the Jimmer Fredette.
Jammer.
Just pulling up from range. We love
Yeah.
Jimmer. Shout out to the Shanghai Sharks. He's out there getting buckets out there. Another alumni of BYU I found Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge.
Oh, Danny.
Yeah, there you go, old Danny boy. So shout out to BYU, getting some love out west. Again, just a team that has put a lot of people in the blender. And
Yeah.
one of my most fond memories is just Jimmer Fredette just pulling up from all over the place. I'll tell you this: there's nothing more demoralizing than just someone just pulling up on you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So shout out to BYU. At the number two spot, this is a team that maybe a lot of people don't appreciate or give a lot of love to, but I'm going the University of Nevada at Las Vegas, UNLV, just the running Rebels. Okay, they won a national championship in 1990. They went to back national championships in 90 and 91. Again, their alumni base is fantastic, and they've been to the tournament 20 times, and they just got it done. They just
Yeah.
got it done, right? The running Rebels of UNLV at the two spot, and number one shouldn't be any surprise to anybody, Gonzaga. Now, I know I'm not a huge Gonzaga guy. I'm really not. I'm not a huge Gonzaga guy. But I will say this: 23 appearances. They went to 22 straight NCAA tournaments. That's incredible.
Yeah.
The one thing that's a little bit of a knock is they just can't get over the hump year after year. And their NBA players have been lackluster.
Yeah.
I mean, Adam Morrison wasn't great. Let's call a spade a spade. But they have some good guys out there. This Holmgren kid should be okay. Jalen Suggs is going to be a good player. It just sucks he plays for the Magic. But Gonzaga coming in at the one spot when it comes to best mid majors out there. Again, shout out to all the small schools out there. excited to hear your list, John. Who do you got?
Yeah, so I'm excited that we didn't talk about this before before we came on the air here. My list is a little different. We have a couple similarities here, but what I looked at was I looked at regular season titles, I looked at tourney appearances, of course, I looked at Final Fours, and I looked at NBA picks. So, of course, I might catch some heat on it, but number five, Princeton University. Princeton University, let me run by the numbers here: 30 regular season titles, 25 tourney appearances, one Final Four,
Wow,
and 10 top 60 NBA picks.
that's pretty good.
Now, we might not know who those players are, in terms of name recognition, but ten top 60 picks is pretty good.
I mean,
Um,
for an Ivy, they're an Ivy, right?
yeah, for an Ivy League school.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yes. So that's my number five right there.
I mean, that's a little bit of a hometowner, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah, yep, definitely a hometowner. It's been tough because I want to give so many shout outs to mid majors. It
Yeah,
fires me up.
I agree.
A lot deserve recognition, so it's been tough. Number four is BYU. 22 regular season titles, like you said, 30 tourney appearances.
Yep.
They've had zero Final Fours, so
Yeah,
but
yeah.
mid major, so it's tough for a mid major to get to Final Fours.
And it's
But
also tough recruiting at BYU. Like, I feel like don't you have to go on like a mission trip or something? Like you have to like take a year off or something, like and
I think so. And
go
then I
on some
don't
sort of
think that you can have.
sabbatical.
I don't think you can have intercourse as well.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Wasn't somebody
saying.
canned about that? I think so. That's tough.
It
That's
is
tough.
tough.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't be going to BYU, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
And
fact.
they've also had 22 top 60 NBA picks.
That's a good amount. That's
So
more than I
that's a good
thought.
amount for BYU.
Yeah. Yep. I'll give you that.
Number three, Gonzaga.
Gonzaga at the 3 spot.
Yeah, because they always choke every single time, and a lot. They burn me too every time. They burn me because I take them to go far in NCAA, and they always choke. So 25 regular season titles, 23 tournament appearances, like you said. They've had one Final Four, and
That's not good.
this is since like 1940. These stats. Okay, so one Final Four,
Yeah.
and they've had 15 top 60 NBA picks.
Yeah.
So, that's okay.
Yeah,
That's why they're
okay.
number three. That's not why they're number one for me.
Okay. That's fair.
Number two, we agreed on this one. UNLV.
Let's go. The Rebels.
They've only had 12 regular season titles, and I think they've been a little bit shaky recently in terms of appearances. And I think they lost their coach, and they got a new coach come in, and I think they've been a little bit shaky recently. But still, 12 regular season titles, 20 tourney appearances, 4 Final Fours.
Yep. That's
and
huge.
25 top 60 NBA picks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that they deserve my number 2 spot. And number 1, coming out of left field.
What?
Ready for this?
Oh my God.
Western Kentucky.
What?
Western Kentucky. Just hear me out on these stats right quick. 28 regular season titles.
Yep.
23 tournament appearances.
Okay.
4 Final Fours.
That's pretty good.
25 NBA top 60s. I wanted to put Western Kentucky on there because I knew you were not going to throw Western Kentucky as your number 1.
I mean, that's just,
it might be reckless. And yeah, Gonzaga has just the same amount of tourney appearances, but Western Kentucky's got 4 Final Fours.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I was thinking more along the lines of, again, shout out to Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers. Shout out Mike White. He's a Hilltopper. But Gonzaga, I'd say they have better NBA players than Western Kentucky, and that record of 22 straight NCAA appearances, like that. I mean, that holds a lot of weight to me. That holds a lot of weight to me.
Yeah, it does. It does. But when you come in at a lot of the times the number 1 seed, I expect you to show up, and they don't show up.
Yeah,
maybe it's recency bias because they just lost and I had them going pretty far.
It
Um,
probably is. That's what
so
it
so
feels like.
maybe I just chucked them at the 3 to say kind of like an fu to them.
Could be.
But yeah, I mean, I mean, Western Kentucky. It took me a little bit of research to find this out, but shout out to them for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. I'll give you that. I don't know. I don't know what the people are going to say about that, John. You might get slander for that, but we'll see.
Bring it.
My I did have an honorable mention, and I didn't really pull a lot of numbers on this team, but you know, I played high school basketball, and I just remember this team just making some great runs. Butler, the Bulldogs of
Oh
Butler.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Obviously Gordon Hayward and shoot, gosh, I can't remember this guy's name. Shelvin Mack. I mean, these guys they were tough. They were a tough out. I mean, they're a squeaky rim away from being national champions. I mean, Butler, um, uh, Gordon Hayward put up that half court shot, almost went in off the glass, and the Butler Bulldogs really talk about seizing the moment. They
Yeah.
really did. They
Yeah.
had, they had those guys for a finite amount of time, and I think they got the best that they could out of that group. Um, Shout out Brad Stevens, right? He's obviously moved on to more of an executive role with the Boston Celtics, but again, was able to parlay that into an NBA job. Ended up coaching Gordon Hayward again, and shout out to the Butler Bulldogs.
Yeah. My honorable mention was Murray State. I mean, they're a great program. So I know you already talked about Murray State a little bit, so I won't harp on them. But Murray State was my honorable mention. They were right on the cuff of getting into my top 5.
Yeah,
They probably deserve to be in there, but another good mid-major program for
yeah,
sure.
and I got to make a quick edit here. Wichita State, their alumni, Fred Van Vliet and Landry Shamet. Cameron Payne went to Murray State. So just for the viewers out there, I think I got that mixed up. So I just want to
They would
clarify.
come at you. They would come at you
Yeah,
for
they come
sure.
at me. So I just want
Yeah.
to clarify. Landry Sham, a great 3-point shooter. Fred Van Vliet, another great shooter. Cameron Payne, backup point guard for the Phoenix Suns, went to Murray State. So just want to clarify
Gotcha.
that for the viewers out there. But
Here's a question for you.
yep.
Since we're in March Madness right now,
Yes, sir.
it is March 26th. Who are you taking to win the whole thing, to win the whole dance?
Is that a serious question?
Yeah.
Nova Nation,
Villanova.
baby. Let's
Vill-
go.
Villanova fun. No way.
Villanova, baby. Come on, man. The Wildcats, Jay Wright, Colin Gillespie. They got the baby Archidiacono going. I mean,
I
I'm
mean,
telling
hey,
you, man, these
nothing
guys are
against
ready
them.
to play, bro.
Nothing against them. So who would I want to see win? UNC. I would like to see UNC win. Just shout out to my boy Kenny.
Haven't they won
I want him to get a
enough,
win.
though? I mean, what? I mean, come on.
But this is who I think is going to win.
Villanova.
No, Duke.
Oh,
And I hate to say it. I hate to say it because I hate Duke. I think Coach K can shove it. He's such a crybaby, a whiner. I think everything is lining up for him to win on his farewell tour. Watch tonight. I guarantee you, they're going to get every single foul call. They're going to get everything. They're going to be on the cusp of losing, and they're going to get some fugazi foul call, and it's going to get them to win the game. Guarantee you. It is just lining up for them to win.
wow. That's
Unfortunately,
that's
it
a
sucks
bold
too.
that's a bold statement. You're gonna get crushed for the Coach K. I mean,
Uh,
I'm not a huge Coach K guy, like whatever, but I just
He's a crybaby. He's a crybaby. I don't care if it's his. I know he's had a great career. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. I don't care.
yeah.
I want him to take that L to Houston.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's Nova Nation. Villanova's going to win. I mean, you might as well just book it right now. I mean, they're the best free throw shooting team. They shoot the three at a high
That's true.
clip, and
They got a great point guard.
they can get a stop and they can get a bucket. Because at the end of the day, right? Like, can you get a stop? Can you get a bucket? So I think that they're set up to do it. I think they again. I'm trying not to be a homer here, but they've just been playing really, really good basketball. They won the Big East tournament, and I think it's destined for another
I'm
Nova
saying it
Nation
now. If
title.
Duke wins, the whole thing is rigged and Fugazi. I'm saying it right now.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. If they do win, it's rigged.
Yeah. The only thing that's been frustrating for me with March Madness is the chintzy foul calls. I say this all the time, but just let the kids play. Let them get in the paint and throw some elbows. Like I just want to see a little bit less, and just let them play.
Yeah.
Let them like tough it out a little bit. That's all. I don't know. That's just me with the foul calls. I think there could be a little bit less. I think some of them are too chintzy.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah,
But
but it's been a great watch. I mean, every game been locked in.
yeah, I mean, again, shout out to University of Miami, um, making a run here. Larinaga's out here just getting dirty on them. I love it. 305 is being represented, but it's been a great tournament. You have some double digit seeds, in this, Sweet 16, Elite Eight, and kind of, staking their claim. And this is why the name March Madness couldn't be more perfect, because that's
Yep.
that's exactly what it is. It's absolute chaos and madness, and we're here for it, and we love it, and we love you. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, thank
This
you.
is episode number 2 of the Designated Hitter Pod. We appreciate it. See you next
Yeah,
time
more to
for
come.
episode 3.
More to come, folks. Thank you.